Hi, today I want to talk to you about a major bill that has passed the Oregon Legislature called HB 4213. This bill is one of the worst bills we've seen come out of Salem. Not only is it going to damage the short-term housing market, it's going to cause major problems over the long run in the housing market in Oregon. Now, some might argue that they needed to do something with the COVID crisis and around evictions and so forth, and we're not necessarily debating that. But what they've done with this bill is pretty horrendous. And so one of the things I want to talk to you about is, first of all, the extension of the eviction moratorium. So basically they've said that in the event you couldn't pay rent from April 1st through September 30th, that there are going to be zero consequences for you to not pay rent. There's not going to be any late fees. You're not going to be in a situation where you're going to be terminated with your tenancy. Now, normally you might even want to say, well, what if they don't have the money? This is not a means-tested law. This means even if you have the money, you don't have to pay. You basically can just defer it for 6 months. And this is a period that they're calling the emergency period. And it doesn't really stop there. So now they have something called the grace period. The grace period starts on October 1st after 6 months, which basically says you can repay all the sums that you were charged or incurred during the emergency period over the course of 6 months. That means that as an owner, you're in a situation where you could go 6 months without getting any rent for the property while you have a mortgage, other expenses related to repairs, whatever else that goes along with the property, taxes, and then you're in a situation where you can't be paid until next year, 2021, which is called the regulatory period in this new rule. So basically from April 1st through March 31st of 2021, you are going to be in a bind. Now, there's a lot of reasons that this is going to cause damage to the housing market. There's a lot of landlords who are going to get foreclosed on. There's a lot of landlords that are going to have to exit because they can't afford this. Now, these are just some of the things that are going on with this new rule. They've also removed some of the qualifying landlord reasons to end a tenancy, a normal way to end a tenancy. So, for example, if you have a lease that's expiring before the emergency period's over, can't end that. Have a situation where you need to move back into the home that you own, can't do that. Need to move a family member in, can't do that. Do you have major repairs or renovations to the property that need to be done? That's not a qualifying reason. What about demoing the property? Maybe the property's in a situation where it's being developed and now it's ready to be, rebuilt and demoed. Can't do that either. So they've limited a lot of the reasons that you have. They've even gone as far as limiting people who live in the property. So you have a duplex, can't do that. ADU, can't do that. So basically they've stopped you from being able to end a relationship that may be going poorly for 6 months. So these are some of the major things that are happening with this bill. So it's really, really important to be familiar with it, and at this point to write into your legislature, because these are the types of bills that come out when the people who are writing them don't understand the market, aren't paying attention, and aren't thinking about you. If this was truly about helping people who were in a situation in COVID where they couldn't afford to make payments, they would have means tested it. They would have asked, hey, can you prove why you're in a situation where you can't pay rent? So these are some of the major changes that have come out in this bill. Some other things that they did have to do with granting some extensions for ending a tenancy if you need to. So there's this thing in law called tolling. And so basically they've said, if you needed to end the lease within a certain period of time, you now have an extra 30 days. Not a whole lot. Oh, and then on top of that, they've added a lot of penalties to landlords for not complying. So let's just say, what do you do once the emergency period's over? So at this point, you're allowed to send a notice to the resident to tell them that they owe this balance, and then you have to basically say, you have this period of time to repay it, and then if the tenant proposes a different plan, then there's potential case in which you're going to have to follow that plan because they didn't give real guidance when it comes to the repayment options. So the whole thing is a bit of a mess, but nonetheless, it's really important that you're aware of it because at the end of the day, it's going to have a major impact on how tenancies are renewed, how they're managed, and how payments are received for situations where rent isn't being paid. So if you have any additional questions about this, feel free to reach out to us. We really encourage you to hit subscribe for our channel. We're going to be releasing videos about any major changes in Oregon or Washington laws, or some that have to affect some of the cities like Portland. Thanks for tuning in.